Have you guys seen these people? These are people who caught COVID, are in the hospital, and they're like, okay, we need to get you vaccinated. And they're like, nope, it's fake. Nope. Do I think it's worth it to stay in Afghanistan? No, I do not. I do not think it's worth it. Even if I have, of course, many sympathies with the Afghan population and the terror they're going to go through. It's not even just politically worth it. It's not even politically viable to do so. So the question of should we stay is kind of redundant anyway. These hospitalized COVID patients still refuse to get vaccinated. Could you imagine, like, you are on a hospital bed. You're skinny now. Your lungs feel like they're on fire. Your families is looking at you through a window, putting their hand up to it. You have to put up the hand to the window to touch them. The doctor comes in like, sir, we need to give you the vaccine. It's fake. I can't. I just can't. Oh, the 24,000. Oh, my 2.4 thousand dislikes. Wonderful. A lot of people want to die. A bunch of Darwin Award winners? Exactly.
People were more rescuable in the first pandemic. This has a higher mortality in the younger group than the first one did. I did not realize that threat of death is inadequate to make people want to go have vaccines.
We're here in a hospital in Little Rock, Arkansas, where the Delta variant has led to a surge in COVID cases. The ICU is full beyond capacity. There are people on ventilators who are in their 20s, and over 90% of the patients are unvaccinated.
Arkansas has one of the lowest.
I want to bring this up, and I bring this up every single time I have the opportunity to. In my state, I live in Maryland. 2 months ago, the entirety of that month, 120 people died from COVID, and it was a disaster. But you want to know what? It was a tragedy. Every single one of them were unvaccinated. You being unvaccinated, you're doing nothing but putting a target on your back. Not from persecution from the government, but for COVID. To go in there and bust you up. It makes zero sense not to get a free vaccine. I will never understand it.
Vaccination rates in the country. 4 months ago, the state legislature passed a ban on mask mandates. Now, with the spread of the Delta variant, hospitals here are being pushed to the brink.
Ron DeSantis right now in Florida, he's like, freedom. Oh, freedom. Like, I remember, like, 6 months ago, it was at CPAC. Ron DeSantis was at CPAC, just bragging about how well Florida's doing. And now the whole state is in crisis as its ICUs are overflowing due to the Delta variant and their inability to handle the crisis effectively. My God.
Hey, Ms. Chandler. I'm good. How are you? So I'm actually going to probably move you down to 85 and see how you do. Once we're down to 60 or 70, then I'll probably decrease the flow a little bit, okay? But I would say do get vaccinated as soon as it's time, okay? Because that's the only way we're going to make this demon go away from our life, okay?
What are you hearing from unvaccinated patients who end up here in the ICU?
Well, only a few of them would actually believe they have COVID. You have to tell them every day. That
Most
this
people
is
don't
COVID.
even believe they have COVID.
There's a fair number of people who don't believe they have COVID, and then we are lying to them.
Why would they lie to you? What reason would this doctor have to lie to you? Why? Does he get a kick out of it? My God, I have all the symptoms of COVID and I'm in a hospital and I can barely breathe. My God, must be the flu.
How do you overcome that?
Oh, and I've tested positive for COVID? Must be a mistake. You're lying to me.
It's very hard to do. I mean, you educate them, but if they get too agitated, then they get more short of breath, then they require more support, and then they get intubated, which then leads to a longer hospital stay.
So the hospital won't let us inside the patient's room, so we have to talk to them through the glass with this walkie-talkie. Hi, Miss Chandler.
How are you?
Can you talk me through how you ended up here?
I had come down with what I thought was just an allergy, and it progressed, and I had fever going. 7 days later, my lungs were covered in COVID pneumonia. When you cannot breathe and you can't get air, it is very scary.
Did you get the vaccine?
No,
Have you talked to the doctors and nurses here about the vaccine?
I have, and yes, they're explaining, but you have to be open to hear, and I wasn't, and I'm more open to listen now.
Why did you agree to be interviewed?
I'm living something I didn't believe. I'm living it. And people need to know that it is real. It is real. People are dying. They are dying.
18
Could you imagine not believing guns and bullets exist until you get shot? Dude, because that's the equivalent of that's the only thing I can think of at the moment. Because the thing is, people say, well, I don't see COVID. You see all the bodies from COVID. You see the over 600,000. We see the people in the hospitals. The evidence is right there. Believing that COVID's fake or that you don't need the vaccine is like believing you shouldn't move out the way of a speeding bullet.
months into the pandemic, doctors here say they have more COVID cases than ever, and new groups are being hit harder. 20% of this hospital's recent COVID patients have been pregnant women. Lindsay Smith didn't get the vaccine and tested positive when she came to the hospital to give birth. She's asymptomatic, but had to be separated from her newborn son.
This is our son. He's in the NICU right now. It looks like he's sleeping.
How is it to not be able to go and see your baby in person?
This morning was pretty difficult because he's supposed to be with me, you know. He's been with me the whole time, and now I can't even hold him. So that's definitely hard. I haven't got to meet my son yet.
Does being here in this situation, not being able to see your baby in person, make you start to reconsider at all not wanting the vaccine?
No. No, because even with getting the vaccine, you can still spread it. You can still get it. There simply aren't enough studies for it.
What are you worried about?
Wait, what? Is she? No, did she just say?
Because even with getting the vaccine, you can still spread it. You can still get it. There simply aren't enough studies for it.
You can still get it the same way that if you're in America, I guess you could still technically be shot by, like, I don't know, the Taliban. I mean, I guess it's physically possible. I mean, the odds of it are super unlikely, but maybe you'll have the most magical ricochet bullet in the world and it'll sail over the seas and hit you. The odds of you getting COVID, if you're vaccinated, are unbelievably low. Explain it like a seatbelt. It's super easy. Now, seatbelts, the only difference is, of course, the vaccine can actually stop you from getting COVID, where the seatbelt doesn't stop you from getting into a car crash. So it's even more effective than a seatbelt, but follow this comparison for a little bit. It's not that the COVID vaccine stops all chances of you from getting COVID. It just completely cuts the odds of it down to like 0.00001%. And if you do get COVID, the odds of you dying from it are also extremely reduced, and the odds of you even being hospitalized are extremely reduced. It's like a seatbelt on steroids. If seatbelts also could be used to stop you from getting in car accidents.
What are you worried about?
I don't know what's in it. You hear things, you know, like it's changing genetics, it's changing DNA and things like that. I don't know how true that is, but I also don't.
Listen to her. I heard a thing about genetics, DNA, RNA, whatever, COVID, QAnon. I don't know if it's true, but yeah, I'm gonna gamble with my life off of some Facebook posts.
I don't know how true the things that they are saying, the good things about it that they say.
Does it frustrate you to have patients who...
So she doesn't question the Facebook post. She just questions the good things about the vaccine, which are sourced from like the CDC and multiple studies. Okay.
who refuse the vaccine and then end up
Not enough studies. Okay. If someone ever asks, there's not enough studies, ask them, how many do you need? That's the only question you can ask past that point. They're not going to give you an answer. Because the question isn't about how many studies. It's just simply, it's just a delaying tactic.
here in the ICU.
More disappointed in them because the information has been out there. It's just like what media they're using will color their perceptions and the family members and their perceptions. I didn't think I would live through a time when vaccines would be so ridiculed.
Have you had success at convincing either patients or their family members to get vaccinated?
I would say 1/5 of the time.
A fifth of the time.
And they may say yes to you here. If they actually get vaccinated is a different story.
So these nurses are turning a patient over. It's called proning, and it's done.
Can I say that you can actually correlate pretty closely when Donald Trump ran for office and where we saw anti-vax rhetoric just spike extremely online. And it's because Donald Trump, a lot of people forget this, is an anti-vaxxer. Donald Trump on the debate stage with Ben Carson, who's an actual medical professional, was saying like, it's just curious how all these vaccines seem to also correlate with an increase in autism when there is no evidence whatsoever that vaccines cause autism. It is really sad the amount Trump's lunacy has actually affected Americana and how these conspiracy theories, which make it extremely more difficult to respond to health crises, are going to probably last for possibly like a decade. Hell, hopefully not decades, because of his irresponsible rhetoric.
To increase airflow.
Healthcare workers are exhausted and frustrated, with no end in sight. Some nurses at this hospital have even walked off in the middle of their shifts.
It's really hard to come to work all the time and just see such sick, young patients who are on every single resource that we can throw at them to keep them alive. At this point, I'm kind of like, it is what it is.
Are you worried about the next few weeks if cases continue to rise like this?
Yeah. We don't have enough staff for it to get worse. It's just kind of like you're hitting a wall.
Do you plan to get the vaccine after you get out of here?
Not at this time. I've read all the bad stuff on it. I've not read any of the good because I didn't believe it. So I have to change my thinking and study.
But don't you think that maybe being vaccinated could have prevented you from being here in the first place?
Not at this time, I don't believe that.
How are we?
How? The odds of you getting COVID, if you were vaccinated, are like 0.0000001%. Yes, it would have stopped you from going in here. All the odds point towards that being the truth.
You're going to get out of this if more people don't get vaccinated?
I can't answer that.
Dude, this feels like a mass suicide cult. That's what anti-vaccine is. It's just a mass suicide cult. You're in there suffering at death's door. And like, this vaccine stuff still feels like a lot of hooey. God, man. I'll never understand it.